In another banter-filled bonanza of Grumpy Gits greatness, we talk Strictly's Ellie Simmonds and the ableist backlash from clickbait media. We revel in the Deadpool 3 news with the return of Hugh Jackman as Wolverine and debate the acting merits of Ryan Reynolds. Spoiler alert, Simon's wrong. This week's Ask the Grumpy Gits looks at a viewer's embarrassing misunderstanding of the function of a B-Day. And Chris gets philosophical in a gem of a See You Next Tuesday. In Simon Says, we ask you about CARER'S payments and we analyse your responses. All this and our usual BS and banter, so sit back, grab a brew and remember, don't be grumpy alone. The Grumpy Gits are proudly partnered with the Disability Expo being held at XL in London on the 6th and 7th of July 2023. It's going to be an incredible event, so follow the links in the description to sign up.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to you wherever and whenever in the world you are watching this, and welcome to another fantastic episode of the Grumpy Gits, the podcast that always says, one love for the modest pride, one love for the times we cried, one love, gotta stay alive, I will survive. I am Adam Pearson, and I am joined by three amazing friends, bastions among men, for this journey through the world of whataboutery, disability, and jiggery-pokery. Coming up first, the optimist says that glass is half full. The pessimist, half empty. This man says, wait a second, is that piss? Ladies and gentlemen, Chris Lee Smith, how are you, good sir?
I'm alright. I was ill a few days ago, and obviously we had a meeting while I was ill, and you were all taking the piss out of me.
That's what we do. This is how life works. This is part of the Grumpy Gits. Ask Simon.
Yeah, I mean, your mates take the piss out of you. The people who don't like you are nice to you.
I've got a lot of enemies, if that's true.
For those who don't know, he was on a meeting dressed like Lord Palpatine, feeling very sorry for himself.
It was Lord Palpatine crossed with an Ewok. It was like a fuzzy Palpatine.
Yeah, I wasn't at my best.
The cost of living crisis has even hit the Star Wars franchise. That's how fucked we all are. But other than that, how you been doing?
Yeah, all right. I mean, it's coming up to winter, so I'm trying, but I'm trying really, really hard. No, I'm trying really hard not to put
like
the heating on.
a black hole for positive energy.
No, I mean, what I was about to say, what's to be positive about, and then you'll give me fucking reasons, and I don't want to hear it. To be honest, it's boring. But no, I'm trying to fight not to put the heating on at the moment, and it's difficult. Really difficult.
It really dropped here. Like, Monday was fine, but then on Tuesday I was like, oh, it's a bit nippy. I got a jumper on. So that's how you know it's bad.
Yeah.
It's like the world just cried, autumn! there was no easing into it. It just went, autumn!
Well, I'm glad you're feeling better, and I'm glad you're here, Chris.
Thanks,
and
man.
Coming up next, we've already heard from him. He is an amazing man, the thunder from down under, the saucy Aussie. That's not a knife, this is a knife. No, it's not, it's a spoon. Duncan Casburn, how are you, my friend?
I'm on a mission against cats at the moment, I've decided. My cats, we've got two cats, and they're just pissing me off, which I think stems back to childhood trauma.
And so, actually, because for a minute there, I thought, why does Duncan hate Andrew Lloyd Webber out of nowhere? But your actual cats.
Actual cats. Well, it's like I say, it stems back to childhood trauma. We had a cat when I was very young that came to an untimely end because we were living in an apartment. And my dad had one of those big polished top stereo systems, back in the 70s, like oak, and he used to polish it to an inch of its life. I'm sure NASA used to phone him for advice so they could assist with re-entry or whatever. But we had this cat that went schizo in the apartment, hit the top of his stereo, and Dad had polished it so much there was zero traction. He went just sliding along it, sailed through the window at the side, over a balcony, plummeted 2 stories, and landed all fours on the concrete, on the asphalt, and the road below.
Well, there we go. I heard something similar happened, and Eric Clapton wrote a song. Did you write a song?
I didn't write a song. I was pretty happy the cat survived until the taxi hit it. But other than that...
Wow, this... See, Chris, you thought your week was bad. Listen to this. Well, I thank you for that amazing 3-line fiasco, Mr. Duncan Casburn. I am also glad you are here. And finally, you might recognise him from that clip off the internet. He is the Lester Lothario. Simon Sampson, how's fame treating you, good sir?
Yeah, that clip got thousands of views. Yeah, don't need to go there again. But I did notice at your intro you said, someone is asking the question, is that piss? That's referring to me, isn't it? Because I'm incontinent. That's the reason.
Nope, not at all. But now you've brought it up, makes it funnier. Thank you.
Are you saying you are taking your incontinence, emptying it into a glass, and offering it to Chris? Because that would be the
Why have I
scenario.
been brought into this?
Because it was your thing. Hang on, is this piss? That was supposed to be your thing.
As long as I don't drink it, it's fine.
Yeah. And with the heating as well, we've got underfloor heating throughout the house, and Kate rubs it in every time the underfloor heating comes on and goes, oh, doesn't this feel nice? I've got no feeling in my feet.
I was going to say, isn't that wasted on you? That's like buying me a sports car.
When my daughter was born, my mother-in-law was in for the birth. She was allowed in, and she spent the whole time massaging my wife's feet, unaware that she'd had an epidural and couldn't feel a thing. She sat there the whole time.
Ah, people. Well, I'm also glad you're here, Simon. It's a pleasure to see all three of you. This is one of the highlights of my fortnight. So, without further ado, let's get the show on the road and argue amongst ourselves. Chris, what have we got for us?
I am taming it a little bit and making it a bit weird as well. I'm mixing it up. Okay. First question. Going through each Grumpy Git, which MCU character are they most like and why? Let's start with the comic book fan himself, Adam.
So I'm going to go Simon as Professor X for obvious reasons. And Patrick Stewart, not McAvoy, going with the OG. I reckon Chris. I'm going to go Deadpool. More on him later. Because I reckon you might well be indispensable, and also I reckon you have the same outlook on life. I reckon you both just don't give a flying fig tree. And Duncan, it has to be MCU. Otherwise, I'd give Duncan Preacher. Because I reckon if you annoyed him enough, that could happen.
Okay.
I'm gonna say Duncan is Wolverine. I reckon Duncan's secretly a badass who rides a motorbike and doesn't like magnets.
You should have said Ghost Rider, no hair and rides a motorcycle. It would have been a more fitting one. But we'll move on to Simon next.
So, for Chris, Groot.
Okay.
For Duncan, Rocket, because both of them are voice actors, you don't have to see them. And for Adam, Thanos.
He's getting the claws in this week, isn't he?
Whoa, wait. He just named Adam as Thanos.
Yeah, because he's a nasty fucker too.
It's a nasty fucker. Okay, same question, Duncan.
Oh, Adam, I reckon, is Mr. Fantastic. I could see him with the stretchy limbs and that whole thing
makes
going
sense.
on. I reckon that would work. Chris, I was actually going to say Rocket, like cynical and just very deadpan. I think that kind of works.
Okay.
Simon, I think the Thing.
The
I can see him.
Oh, God, okay. Right, let's move on to question 2. Who would make the best and worst RoboCop, and why? Let's start with Duncan this time.
Oh. I actually think you would.
Make the best RoboCop or worst?
You'd make the best RoboCop. You'd fit the outfit out of any of us better for that alone.
RoboCop doesn't... It's not an outfit, it's his body, isn't it?
I know, but I'm saying, it's a human brain inside the whole thing. It would shut up and just listen. But I think you'd revel in the one-liners, the whole almost Arnold Schwarzeneggerishness of the one-liner side of things. I think you'd nail that. Yeah.
The worst.
The worst. Oh, I don't know. Probably me. As it's been said before, I think I'm probably too nice to play RoboCop. I'd be sitting there going, but I don't want to kill him. This isn't nice. No. Why don't we sit down? Let's have a herbal tea. Let's try and talk this through.
You try and debate everybody rather than save them.
Can't we all just be friends?
Okay, let's go to Simon. Who would make the best and worst RoboCop, and why?
Well, clearly Adam would be the worst because it's the 1980s technology, so it's like the equivalent of Commodore 64, which, if you remember, takes an hour to load up to play a game, and Adam's always late. So I'm thinking, because it takes so long and Adam's never on time, that kind of, connection.
On that, can I retract my worst and put Simon? Because it took us 35 minutes to get the technology sorted just to record tonight.
The audacity of him saying that after the...
No.
Hypocrite.
Took 7.
Okay.
I mean, if we're going for stature and limitations, Chris is probably going to be the best, I'm afraid. Sorry, Dunk. Yeah.
I said that.
Okay.
You're agreeing with me, so don't apologise.
Adam, who's your best and worst RoboCop?
Well, Simon's still like me being late. I'm very rarely late, and I can work the tech. And what have you? Like the balls on you. The balls. You struck me hard on that one, Simon. First time for everything. So, so yeah, I reckon Simon, me, Duncan, and Chris. I also think Chris would revel in the RoboCoppery of the whole thing.
I think he also has the most neutral moral compass as well. It would really fit with that whole, yeah.
They wouldn't need to fuck with my brain, would they?
No.
Right, question 3. Here we go. You work in a nursing home. You've aged tremendously well, but the other 3 are residents and are bad in bed.
Can I just cover my back for a minute here as well for a second? Because I realised, when I was really bad in bed a few months ago...
your wife tells me that's
always
frequent
been
thing.
Yes. He walked straight into that. Your boss tells you. Let me get through it, okay?
You're never leaving this town. We'll be doing this in 30 years and we'll still be recording.
Let me get through it, okay? Your boss tells...
Look at his face. You couldn't look less impressed if you tried.
Look how proud of himself Chris is.
help it. Oh, God. Right, let me finish. Your boss tells you you've got a choice.
Said. Oh!
Where's Simon gone?
Oh, he's back. Look at that face. You all right, man?
That was me walking off in protest. It wasn't. I just wanted to see how long it would take before you actually seriously got worried.
We were justifying our actions. That's what we were doing.
I had to go and get my glasses as well. My eyes are straining.
Question 3. You work in a nursing home. You've aged tremendously well, but the other 3 are residents and are bad in bed. Your boss tells you you've got a choice, but you've got to pick one to give a bath. Who are you picking? Let's start with Duncan.
So I've got to give this person a bath.
You've got to give him a sponge bath. Which one are you
sponge
picking?
Bath. Oh, jeez, this is a tricky one. Oh, I'm going to go for Adam, purely because I think it would take the least time, because there's so little of him. Then I can just move on very
he's
quickly.
In the bath, and you just push him under and then pull him up by his hair. You're done. Okay, same question, Adam.
Because there's different reasons to pick each of you. I reckon Duncan would appreciate it the most.
Is that a euphemism of what he's going to be?
He'd behave.
Slap him on the head if he starts, getting excited.
Mediocre ending.
Which head?
Mediocre ending, my friend. Mediocre ending. I reckon Simon would be the least obnoxious about the whole thing.
What?
Okay.
And I reckon he'd cooperate the most. And I reckon you'd be a right arse about it, Chris. I reckon you'd be like, could you just do that bit at my back again? And it'd be like, Adam, why are you carrying a toaster? Never mind.
Okay, let's go to Simon.
Well, I mean, from someone who actually has regular baths with assistance, or showers with assistance, or just bed baths with assistance, I'm not afraid of it. So, but out of the other 3, who's the smelliest? Chris, you're a smelly fucker. Yeah,
I'm the smelliest.
Yeah,
I shower twice a day.
It's
I
all
do
like
my face.
You use. They soak in and then.
How am I the smelliest fucker?
Trying to get the grit out of you is horrible.
I mean, all right. I'll apparently take the smelliest, but that's the end of See You Next Tuesday.
There we go. Well, we all learned a lot there. We all learned a lot. I feel like after every See You Next Tuesday, I feel like I know you all better, but like you all slightly less. This is
No, you all better. But not in a good way.
it's that weird knowledge respect dichotomy. Is it not? Anyway, those of you that know us well know that we like to give back to the world. We believe the implicit duty of every human is to leave this world a better place than when they arrived, which is why we set up a segment. It's almost verging on a charity now. That's how good it is. Called Dear Grumpy Gits, where we take the world's problems on both a micro and macro level and we solve them. To quote Vanilla Ice, if there's a problem, yo, we'll solve it. Check out the mic while a DJ revolves it. What does that mean? I don't know. It looked really good written down though, so I'm sticking with it. Duncan, do we have a letter from a lost soul this episode?
Indeed, Adam, we do. And I'm going to start with this letter. I want to reiterate, these are genuine letters that come into us. So I'm going to start with this one. Dear Grumpy Gits, I have a friend who's admitted in front of thousands of people that he's terrible in bed. How can I help him to live this down, or is the situation beyond repair? Yours in anticipation, Paul.
Who's Paul?
I don't know. It's it just says Paul, but I'm not saying there's a Paul that works for our sponsors, but here we are.
What advice do we give for this?
I think that horse is bolted, and you just need to roll with it. That's the thing with the
Paul, in Boots, they sell these little blue pills called Viagra. They help out tremendously.
Thank you, Simon. We knew you'd know.
Yeah, there we have it, the voice of experience, ladies and gentlemen.
and reason. So yeah, there we go. Viagra, cement. You can have 2 Magnum sticks and use it as like a splint. That sometimes works. I often pretend that she's someone else, and that helps.
Hi, Roxy.
She doesn't want. Dude, you named her. What the fuck?
If this was Dear Deirdre, it would be consult my leaflet that I'll email you.
Yeah, it would.
Or, Paul, if you're really interested, go to Pornhub and look up Scarlett Johansson and Adam Pearson and see what else is on the site.
Very popular site, I've heard.
Very popular site, but it isn't going to improve him in bed, is it? It's just a movie without Scarlett Johansson.
Thanks, Chris. Oh, yeah, you think it's soft now. Go look at Adam on the internet. Whoa. it'll retract in like a dog. Yeah.
I thought it was just that you go and watch that and you'll feel much better about your life anyway. All right,
Are we rotating? Who do we give the shit to here?
So has Mummy Pearson seen you on Pornhub?
She's seen film, mate. She went with loads of her friends to see the film. I didn't give her any heads up what was going to happen.
That's not a euphemism, is it? When you say heads up.
And then they all came back, and I was like, so, what did you think? Ladies, I'm up here. Eye contact, ladies, up here.
Oh, Jesus.
There we go. There's our short clip for the week.
We do have another letter. Now, I've been asked to keep this anonymous, and I'm going to respect that. We do have sponsors, and they may have sent a couple of letters in. I'm not saying this is connected. I'll let you make that decision. So here we go. Dear Grumpy Gits, after a few nights of party, we had established this friendship with a group of Geordie lads that invited us back to their room for pre-drinks before going on a night out on the town. My friend had taken a liking to one of the boys, and they started hitting things off. I was in a relationship, so none of them was interesting to me. So half a bottle of Southern Comfort down and I started to feel rather sick. So I calmly paced to the lads' toilet and my friend was already in there with a sheepish look on his face. Her face, sorry, I apologise. I composed myself and asked what she had done as the bathroom absolutely stunk. To which she replied, I did a poop on the kids' toilet, but it wouldn't flush. I looked in horror towards the bidet to see it blocked with murky water and a toilet roll, but no log in sight. I held back a mouthful of vomit. And said, how did you get rid of it? To which she replied she had to fish it out with a coat hanger and flush it down the proper toilet. And in the process, spilled half the water content of the bidet onto the floor towards the toilet. I couldn't hold my vomit any longer and projectile vomited into the toilet and then proceeded to slip on the spillage and fell to the floor. The next thing I know, I'm in one of the guys' beds, whilst they have gone all out and left me to sober up. Upon their return, I asked what happened, and they said that they came in to get me, and I was lying on the floor, and there was a wet puddle near me, and so I must have wet myself. Then proceeded to call me pissy pants for the rest of the holiday. I knew full well the wet patch was the result of my so-called friend fishing her log out of the mistaken kid's toilet. She was from Canada, so I presume that maybe they don't have bidets where she comes from. Do you think I should have been a good friend and then taken the rap for her, as she had a romantic interest, or should I have put her in it to save my own embarrassment?
She's being a decent wingman or wing woman, so I think she did the right thing, and she ain't gonna see him again, is she? So she did the right thing.
I mean, I bet she wished she was French Canadian, didn't she? Should understand what a debate is.
I'd have dropped her straight in it. I'd have been like, oh, what happened? Well, look, we came in the room and you were there on the floor. Oh, that's not Geordie, that's Indian. I apologise.
What the hell?
What the fuck?
Wow. Give me a minute. Roller coaster, I'll poop a
There goes both our Geordie and our Indian audience.
He started Geordie, but he just went to India.
We just lost both our Geordie and our Indian audiences. They just gone.
Adam, you're bordering on the line of racist.
Bordering. Started out Geordie, then went to Indian. Like Newcastle itself. Anyway, moving on. No, I'd have dropped her right in it. I'd be like, you know damn right what happened. Where's the coat hanger? Show them the coat hanger. And yeah, it's what I'd have done. I am not a good wingman. I am a terrible wingman. I'm the second worst wingman on this podcast.
I mean, it sounds like a normal girls' night out for Girls Aloud group, doesn't it?
What's your experience that's based on, Simon? This has opened up a curious side conversation. Where the hell did that come from?
Oh, the stories those girls tell.
Oh, up north, that's a Wednesday.
I think she was
Again, I will never cease to be amazed that people email us, because we started out this segment as a bit of a joke to see what we could get, and we've gotten some like crazy stuff. Like I know, much like seeing Excuser, I feel like I know a lot more about our audience than maybe I wanted to.
Yeah, they're doubly incontinent and they keep on vomiting.
Our audience appear to be sort of like drunks, traumatized Christians, and SeaWorld season pass holders. That's our audience.
I wonder what that says about us.
Oh dear.
I'll take it.
And we have Dear Grumpy Gits for this week.
There we go. And if you have a problem that you'd like us to try and solve or get to the bottom of, think of us like Scooby-Doo, but the dog died and we got a disabled guy instead. That's what we are. How can they get hold of us, Duncan?
Please do leave a comment on here. You can put it. We'll take it with utmost seriousness, and you'll get our genuine feedback. Leave it as a comment on here, or tweet us at the Grumpy Gits at Grumpy Gits Show on Twitter.
There we go, at Grumpy Gits Show on the Twitter. Now, gentlemen, Saturday nights are alive and well again as we saw the return of Strictly Come Dancing. I am so happy. However, it didn't take long for some journalists to slither into our dimension and say it's being a bit too woke, whatever that means. And I can't help but feel that it's all a little bit of a veiled attack on Ellie Simmonds, who is part of it this year. And she's the first person with dwarfism to be on the programme. Did we watch it? Do we think it's being too woke? And I'm referring directly, and we'll put a picture up now, to Alison Pearson, no relation, thank God, her article in the Daily Shit Rag. How do we all feel about that article if we've seen it, and how do we feel about Strictly being too woke?
So, can I take this one first of all? Being a qualified journalist, okay, there's a couple of things that
you're a qualified journalist. You never mentioned that.
I've never mentioned that. I'm a qualified journalist. Yeah.
50 episodes and you've never mentioned it.
You learn something every episode.
Okay. There's a number of things that you need to do as a journalist. One is to sell newspapers, which is, you're employed to sell newspapers. Two, write a good story and then to hold government to account and to tell the truth. And I read Alison Pearson's article this morning, and it goes back to the stages of, exclusion rather than inclusion. I mean, what she wants to see basically is almost white males and females on Strictly Come Dancing every week. You don't want to get black people involved. You don't want to get disabled people involved. You don't want to get people with dwarfism involved. You don't want people with visual impairments involved. You don't want people in wheelchairs involved. It's like, I just want normal white people. And that's segregation. That's going back 50 years. And reading the article, it actually made me quite sick. If you call that journalism, it's not. That's just an assault on someone who is, entering a competition on a TV show who is diagnosed with dwarfism. And she's absolutely lovely. And I absolutely detest how the Telegraph was actually able to publish that article as well. If the editor saw that and said, this is going to be a good article, sack the editor and sack Alison Pearson.
And she's got form. If you do a quick Google search and check out her body of work, and it stirs up division, and again it's using the word woke and almost weaponising diversity and inclusion to stir up hostility in a political landscape that is already quite hostile. I want to do Strictly next year just to piss her off. Just because I know she'll be sat in her house seething. She'll be sat there she'll be there in her house looking like a haunted ventriloquist dummy, pissed as all hell.
This is the thing that's really got me, though, is that the word woke has become the weaponisation, and it's a way of anybody who has something to say. If you have thoughts on inclusion, thoughts on ableism, thoughts on any ism, it's now just, you're just being woke, and it's dismissive. So what they've, by making it's about being woke, has Strictly become too woke. it's a way of lumping it in with something that people are kind of jaded by, but throwing the baby out with the bathwater, and it all gets dismissed with, it's just being woke. And then that opens the doors for all kinds of, offensiveness and, like you say, exclusion and, isms that shouldn't be there because it just gets labelled as woke.
I think it's under a guise. I don't think she thinks this. I don't think it's a personal opinion. I think it's put out there to hide more prevalent stories to do with the Tory government.
It's clickbait.
I think
That's what she's gone for.
If she does an article like this, people will talk and badmouth her rather than focusing on what the government are doing. Simple. Daily Mail do it every day. The Express do it. The Sun do it. They all come up with this ridiculous. Yeah, they all come up with these ridiculous culture wars. So you don't pay attention to what's actually happening. Smoke and dagger is bullshit.
Whether she believes it or not, I think there needs to be a certain level of accountability there for both her as the author and the Telegraph as the actual platform that permitted her to publish it. And I think, again, the word woke is used as a way to dodge accountability. You hear it all the time, even in politics in the House of Commons. You've got people like Priti Patel, Nadine Dorries, our former Prime Minister Boris Johnson saying, that's just claptrap from lefty lawyers. And it's all just a bit, it's both ridiculous and disheartening. And it's the opposite of good, hearty debate.
That's it. And the way it was, the article was a really, it was almost a study in how to present this stuff and try and be, she's obviously a Trump fan or something, because the whole thing was, how close can I go to making a really offensive statement and then draw back? So it's like making an offensive statement about the fact that she's got dwarfism, but she's lovely. And she did a fantastic job. But, ... And then comes the sting in the tail. It's just so insidious.
But I think what she's doing is the exact same thing that she's accusing the left of. She's making noise for the sake of making noise. And I also find it highly disheartening that for caring about equality and representation, that I'm somehow the bad guy here who's being woke and kind of, where are all the white people? No, I hate the article so much. And if you're watching this, please vote for Ellie. She's great, she's a good friend, and anything that irritates Alison Pearson can only make this world a better place.
Amen.
Yeah. I can guarantee you Alison Pearson is not a fan of Channel 4.
Oh yeah, without a doubt.
I think if the Tories get back in, she'll be the new Minister for Inclusion. You wait, it'll happen.
Well, there we go. Strictly Come Dancing is back. Saturdays, Team Ellie Simmonds, rock and roll. And now, my favourite story of the week. Gentlemen, how amazing is Ryan Reynolds? Chris Lee Smith, talk to me, baby.
So, the new movie has been announced, and Ryan Reynolds is a marketing genius. He really is. And I think that this has been on the cards from right at the beginning. As they were discussing Deadpool, I think, because he was always releasing these little snippets, these TikToks. He was on Twitter confessing his love for Hugh Jackman under the kind of role as Deadpool. And suddenly, Deadpool 3, Hugh Jackman's in it. I'm pumped. I can't wait. I really can't wait. They're both amazing actors anyway. So this film is going to be something else. I'm so looking forward to it.
Did you just say Ryan Reynolds is an amazing actor?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He actually is. He can act. His most popular films, he's playing Ryan Reynolds. But there's actually films he's done where he genuinely acts and he's incredibly good, and he needs to do more of that, I think. So,
I used to watch him in A Girl, a Guy, and a Pizza Place, or Pizza Hut, or whatever it was, back in the 90s.
2 girls, a guy, and a pizza place.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
He's the same character and has been for 30 years. It's just that they've gave him a cool character with Deadpool, and he's done the same character throughout in The Proposal,
Blasphemy.
in all the other films. I mean, don't get me wrong, I do like Deadpool, I really do. I'm a huge fan. But Ryan Reynolds has the equivalent of one character, which is Ryan Reynolds. He can't do anything else.
He
Mute
can.
him, Chris. Mute him. Mute him.
Can we boot him? Boot him from the
I've already
conversation.
done it once tonight. I'll do it again.
Seriously, he has done lots of films where he acts and he's actually very good. The ones that are popular, which is clearly all you're watching, are the ones where he plays Ryan Reynolds. He's actually done some really good work.
Pikachu at the end, there was a heartwarming moment where there was no comedy or anything involved, and I mean, he did a stellar job.
There was a great film he did, like it must be 15, 20 years ago, but he played a teacher who was dying of cancer, but you didn't sort of know it through the film. And I can't remember the film, so I'm not spoiling anything for everyone. Don't know the title, but he was almost like a secondary character. But it was brilliant. It was a sort of Mr. Holland's Opus type of thing, it had that kind of feel to it. But he brilliantly acted in it, and you really felt what he was going through. He can act.
Ryan Reynolds will never win an Oscar or a Golden Globe for acting.
Oh, mate.
Yeah.
I hope you're wrong. We're going to take this, we're going to clip it, and when he does, we're going to play it in slow motion, in black and white.
Wouldn't we have said this? Wouldn't we have said this about Will Smith in his early acting days as well?
You would have done.
Exactly.
And look how well that turned out for him.
What a hit he became. Oh!
It's just a slap in the face.
How did this turn into a debate if Ryan Reynolds can act? It's supposed to be pumped over the new movie.
Oh, and believe me, I am. When it was just like, Hugh, fancy playing Wolverine again, and you heard the voice, I was like, no, that's just a fat bloke doing a voice. That's what that is. And then the second video came out today, and I was like, oh my god, it's Hugh Jackman! Oh, I'm so happy. I cried a bit. I think I whispered the words, put it in my mouth, for no reason whatsoever. I'm pumped. It's gonna be great. You shut your whole mouth. You said enough, Simon. You said enough. You're not Ryan Reynolds.
No.
Whatever we're gonna say is completely wrong. I'm excited for it. We should all go and see it. It's gonna be great. He's gonna get a Golden Globe for it. I'm gonna get a cameo from Ryan Reynolds saying, "Fuck you, Simon Sampson. Fuck you," and it's gonna be amazing.
Hashtag Ryan for the Globe. Get it trending.
Ryan
Ryan for the Globe. And Deadpool saved the whole Marvel universe. I've got really jaded with superhero movies. There's just been too many now. But you can always rely on Deadpool because it was just such a different take. And nobody else could have done it. For whatever Simon wants to diss Ryan Reynolds for, nobody else could have played that character. He defined
Simon, is that true? Could anybody else have played Deadpool?
Well, yeah, about 100 different leading blokes.
Who?
Just name
Name
5.
Name 5. Jake Gyllenhaal.
No! He's got no wit.
What?
Leonardo
He's a fuckwit.
DiCaprio.
He's not...
No.
Leonardo DiCaprio!
Jesus.
Right now, Leonardo's turning in his grave. He's not even dead yet.
Chris Evans has played 2.
He's Wolverine.
Yeah.
That's actually a good shout, Chris Evans. I think he would have given it a good crack.
Andrew Garfield, easily.
No!
Oh,
no.
Fucking hell. Oh.
The only person who could do it vocally, I think, could have pulled it off would be Chris Pratt.
Yes.
But he's not got physically, he's not the right guy for it.
Ryan Reynolds has made When you look at him, he is Deadpool. That's all I see now is Ryan Reynolds is Deadpool. That's it.
No, but that's the thing. Deadpool isn't a character. Deadpool is Ryan Reynolds in real life.
Well, there's a panel in one of the old Deadpool comics that says, if they ever make a film, have Ryan Reynolds play me.
Yeah.
So that's where all that's come from.
We're in a whole chicken and the egg situation here. What came first?
I'm so disappointed in you, Simon. I was half expecting you to say Adam Sandler at one point.
Yeah. If Robert Downey Jr. didn't do Iron Man, he would have been Deadpool.
Oh god, it would have been so short.
Mate, what? If my mum had wheels, she'd be a car. Like, what are you talking about?
Can we move on? This is annoying me now. He's ruining my buzz.
It really is. So we have a competition to be the new host of the Grumpy Gits, because someone is getting fired. On now to our new recurring segment. Simon said, some might say he's already said enough this episode. But we'd already planned this segment before he insulted Deadpool, so we've got to stick with it. But rest assured, this might be the last one. Simon said, Simon, what are we talking about in the world of disability this episode?
So we're talking about CARER'S allowance this episode, and the reason for it is the government pays £69.70 per week if you work for 35 hours looking after someone, which is effectively a full-time job. So what it is, we posted a video out a few days ago to see what replies. We've had a few replies, and I also want to hear your opinions as well, because I know Adam, Chris and Duncan, you do get CARER'S allowance as well. And so for me, this is modern-day slavery. And the reason I say that is because if someone who cares for someone full-time was put into care, it would cost that council thousands of pounds each week on accommodation, on carers and so on and so forth. So a couple of comments we've had, one from Christine Prince, who says, this does come under the slavery rule. I would have thought, what happened to the minimum wage? And again, there's a minimum wage and a living wage, and the carers allowance doesn't come close to that if you're working 35 hours. Karen Carter Wilson Holdsworth says, I know someone who cares for a family for 24 hours a day. The amount they get is absolutely ridiculous. And it is. It's almost insulting. And what this is for me, this is the government abusing carers, in my opinion, on how much they get paid. Okay, so I would like to hear your thoughts, because I know all three of you get carers allowance because Duncan and Chris are send parents, and Adam, you care for your mum and brother and your dad, and you care for them on a regular basis and help them access the community. So what's your thoughts on this?
Well, I'm actually a carer for my wife, not for my daughter.
Sorry.
Technically both, but my wife comes under it. But I mean, there's more to it in the sense that you do get, because of the low rate you get for carers allowance, you do get topped up with other things that are there, other benefits that are there. But the reality is it's not enough. I mean, we've already we talked about this a fair few times on here, and how much we save the government and all that kind of stuff. But the reality is it's just about, like you say, it's taking the piss because it's an essential job. And it wasn't something I chose to do. I was pushed to do it. I'm really glad I did. But the reality is I was forced into the situation by social services at the time, who were, you can't keep working, you're going to have to come home and do this, and had to be organised from there. The reality is, we don't get paid enough. It is ridiculous. But there is more to it. It's not literally just that £69. You do get topped up with other things to make sure that there is a livable amount. But the hoops you have to jump through for everything, I think, is what really gets me.
See, what I would actually like to do, and I would love to lead a national campaign called the NCC, the National Carers Campaign, where, for example, Duncan, you take your wife down to social services along with everyone else who gets cared for, okay, and put social services through hell for a week, because they'll try and find her accommodation, they'll have to put carers in, they'll have to provide her food because she's a vulnerable adult, and they won't be able to do it. And if 50 people turned up at social services every day and did this and say, I'm not caring for my relative anymore, you're going to have to care for them, the system would collapse overnight. And the only way of doing it is if you pay the carers a certain amount of money. And I'd love a national campaign day where it just happened and just people just went over to every council and just left someone there. Obviously not placing them at risk, of course, but...
I was going to say my wife would divorce me. Oh, there you go, babe. Oh, you just sit there. I'll be back in 24 hours. You got your warm enough? You want a hot water bottle? Yeah. See you later. Bye.
A national action campaign day to make the government aware that £69.70 is not enough to care for someone full time. But until something happens, like people fought for disability rights in the 80s and 90s, and it wasn't until they stopped buses and went to dramatic action where the government introduced disability rights.
Wouldn't work.
You don't know that until you try.
What do you mean? That's the whole reason. Nobody is going to try. I'm not about to drive down there and leave my son outside and fucking... Oh, this will put it to the government to give us some more money. There you go. There's my kid. You look after him. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
This is what I'm talking about.
Leaving my dad outside Bernard Weatherall House in Croydon, being like, you stay here. I'll be in the Wetherspoons around the corner. And when the government agreed to give us more money, give me a call and I'll come get you. But until then,
might be a couple of weeks, but
here's a takeaway menu. Here's a phone. You have fun, good sir.
And how is it going to get reported? Because it's not going to be, protest over caring rights and all this kind of stuff. It's going to be benefit scrounge dumps wife on doorstep. Fucks up. That's what's going to get reported.
Dad of the year dumps his son on social services doorstep. So if we're dropping them down there and they're getting, taking care of social services and it's going to be overrun, who's actually caring for my son again?
Oh, what I'm saying is you stay with your son through the whole process, yeah, and say, I'm not
inside the building?
Yes.
So if he needs the toilet, what do I say to him?
You say go to the toilet.
Well, no, I need to take him. I'm his carer. I do. Joking aside, I do agree that drastic action is needed. Yeah. Although Simon's really piss poor plan is not going to work. But I definitely agree that something's. Yes, it does.
There needs to be a voice that goes behind this, and that's the problem. Is that it's a silenced voice, and it gets hidden behind stigma, and it gets hidden behind. Like I say, you're just a benefits scratch. No, fucking not. I work. My day starts at 6 a.m. and ends at 6 a.m. the next day. Like, that's how it works. You don't stop being a carer. And there's a reason I have to be a carer. There's a reason Chris has to be a carer. There's a reason Adam has to be a carer. It's because there's no one else to do it. And I mean, if you examine the whole process at the moment and the system that's in place, they can't find educational psychologists, so diagnoses aren't going through for things, like certain neurodivergent conditions and autism and things like that. There's a lack of psychiatrists and psychologists and there's so much lacking. You're right, the system's already collapsing, and that's really scary because we're actually in a situation where the system is collapsing. The NHS is currently under so much pressure, so much shit that it's imploding in on itself. And we all had this glimmer
and you
of
know
hope
this firsthand as well, Simon, with that ambulance that you had to wait for that never turned up, in fact.
Yeah.
I would probably do, if it was to me, I'd do a documentary where I'd send some of the front bench MPs to go and work in a care home for a week. Just go to a care home in your constituency, or go and live with a family with a parent care in it for a week and see what it's actually like, see how the other half live, and then come back to me and tell me that 64 quid is enough.
That you need to have morals for that. It's not that they're unaware, it's that they just don't care. Even if they did that, I still don't think they'd give a shit. This MPs that have gone to food banks, and then they come out after. What was his name? Lee someone, an MP, who turned around and said, "Well, I've hired a professional chef. He can do 50 meals for 10 pence or something ridiculous." Even though he'd been there, he's seen people picking out food for food banks, and he still made that comment. They don't care.
I think the problem is they see everything under one banner. Because there are people out there who are benefit scroungers. There are people out there who are taking the piss out of food banks. But sadly, they're a small minority. But that's all that gets shown.
Yeah.
And so he's gone, and he's seen one person probably walk in who's eating McDonald's going, "Oh, I need help." And he's made a judgment. And what he's done is he's taken one situation, or he's waited for that one situation so he can pick that as being his reason to object, and dismiss the 500 others that were in front of that person in the queue. That's the problem. It all gets stigmatized, and that's where the real injustice is. And if we took the stigma away and actually examined the real lives of carers, the real lives of the people they care for, it would tug on heartstrings, and it actually, whether it would be their heartstrings, I don't know, but I think the world, the nation as a whole, would see what we go through each day, what we experience. Unless you've, I can say hand on heart, unless you've sat there and experienced your child attacking you so violently that you're really scared for everybody in the house, then you start to understand why it's important that people are home carers, and why they're trained in aspects of that, because that's when it hits home. Because my child doesn't love me any less. I don't love my daughter any less. But I've had to sit through that. I've had to experience it. And I've had to take the steps to make sure that everybody in the house is safe. That kills you. And it kills you inside. That's when it hits home.
I've always wanted to get MPs in a wheelchair for a week. And just see them access to their own community. So they became disabled overnight. It happens to thousands of people a day, where they live in their normal homes, but they're in a wheelchair. They can't get up, they can't transfer, they're in a wheelchair 24 hours a day. And I just want to, and they've got to go to work, they've got to access transport, and I'd love to see what their reply is.
I think it'd be amazing, but I also think they'd be like Dr. Kelso in Scrubs when he got the mobility scooter. They'll just be taking the piss, running around. It would just be. I agree with what Chris is saying. The problem is, it's not the lack of empathy; it's the desire to be unempathetic.
Yeah, I'm all right, Jack. That is their motto.
Yeah.
So even if they were in the wheelchair for a week, they'd stand up after and go, "You know what? I can walk. I don't give a fuck."
And then someone will come and kneecap them.
I think while they're in the wheelchair, we just push them off a cliff.
Yeah. Like the husband of a jilted figure skater, just come and whack him in the knees. with a bat.
That's a retro reference there.
That's a very dated reference. I'm sticking with it, though. I'm sticking with it. So there we go. That was Simon Says. Again, really complex problem, really good debate. And as always, if you've got an opinion, let's keep this conversation rolling. Tweet us, Facebook, Instagram, put it down below in the comments here on the YouTubes. We would love to hear from you. And with that, gentlemen, we've done the beginning, we've done the middle, and we've come to the end. And as always, it's been a real pleasure. This is legit the highlight of my fortnight. Chris Lee Smith, if people want to get hold of you and have a chat with you on the socials, how can they do so?
It is the Real Grump Dad on Twitter.
Duncan Casburn, how can the wonderful people get hold of you?
It's PDA Dad UK on all the socials. But more so, if you want to help me out, go hit like and hit subscribe, because you want this to carry on. We need your support.
Absolutely, could not agree more. And Simon Sampson, how can all the Ryan Reynolds fans get hold of you?
Ability Access 1 on Twitter, Simon Sampson 1 on Twitter, and obviously download the Snowball app, please. Snowball community app.
Get him.
And I tell you what, if you want to leave a review on places that are accessible, as per Deadpool, that'll be awesome.
There we go. You're going to regret saying that. That's going to happen now. Hashtag Deadpool Reviews. And as always, I've been Adam Pearson.
Shouldn't it be hashtag Deadpool Snowballs?
Yeah. He probably does, the horny bastard. And as always, I've been Adam Pearson, he's been Chris Lee Smith, he's been Duncan Casburn, and he's been Simon Sampson. We will see you all on the next one, and remember, don't be grumpy alone. Take care.